The Music City Bowl between Iowa and Kentucky has the makings to be the ugliest and maybe the worst bowl game of this entire postseason. Both the Hawkeyes and the Wildcats come in at 7-5, and both come in with offenses that rank outside the top 100 and are now severely depleted on that side of the ball. How depleted? Well, we're about to tell you. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys, ready to break down everything you need to know for this battle between the Hawkeyes and the Wildcats, a rematch of last year's Citrus Bowl. Not very often we get to see rematches, bowl games in back-to-back years. We've got one in the Music City Bowl. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below, too, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Again, we have our holiday special over there. $29.99 gets you every single postseason pick for college football and NFL. So every spread pick for college football, every spread pick for the NFL postseason, every postseason pick, we're going to have it over on thegridironexpert.com. Make sure you go take it out, sign up today, and start winning money with us right here as a part of our GE Nation, because we guarantee you will make that money back like that. So let's dive into this game, guys. Again, it's going to be a rough one in the Music City Bowl. We'll start with Iowa. I mean, first off, before we even get to that, both teams at 7-5, a pretty disappointing mark, I would say. Kentucky won 10 games last year. They regressed a little bit, had expectations to be much better than they were. Iowa won the Big Ten West last year, had a shot to win again this year despite such a bad year, despite such a bad offense, but 7-5, certainly not the mark that they were hoping for. And you look at the Hawkeyes, the major reason for their struggles, even though they still won 7 games, has been their offense. An offense that only averages 17.4 points per game and just 255 total yards per game. That's it. They average 158 passing yards per game and well under 100 rushing yards per game as well, about 97-ish rushing yards per game. It's a bad mark. Here's where it gets bad for Iowa. If you thought that was bad, listen to this. Their quarterback, Spencer Petras, who's been terrible, is hurt. He's not playing. Their backup quarterback, Alex Padilla, is transferring out of the program, which leaves Joey Labus at quarterback. Joey Labus has 0 collegiate pass attempts. He has never attempted a pass in college, so his first pass attempt ever is going to come in a bowl game against an SEC team in Kentucky. Talk about pressure. Talk about exciting, but talk about pressure. So they may lean more on the ground game, right? They may lean more on Caleb Johnson, 762 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year. But again, it's a ground game that only averages 97 rushing yards per game. This is an offense that's eclipsed 20 points just 5 times this year. And those times they did it, they weren't even that great of opponents. They eclipsed 20 points in games against Nevada, Rutgers, Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin. Arguably the best win out of those, Purdue, who won the Big Ten West. So Iowa's offense was bad with their starters, and now they're down to a third-string quarterback. That's a major concern. Kentucky's no better, though. The Wildcats averaging just 22.1 points per game, 216 through the air, 120 on the ground. It was a year where people thought Kentucky's offense would take off. They fired their offensive coordinator. He will not be coaching in this game. What we thought with Wilt Levis and Chris Rodriguez and Cashapp Smoke and everybody like that, Kentucky could actually have a decent offense, and they just didn't do it. They just were unable to do it. Coming into this game, they're now going to be without Will Levis, a guy who was predicted to go in the first round of the NFL draft, over 2,400 yards, 19 touchdowns on the year. Chris Rodriguez, their leading rusher with 900 yards and 6 touchdowns, he is opting out of this bowl game as well. So they're down their quarterback, they're down their top rusher, and they're down their second leading rusher as Cashapp Smoke opting out as well. So 3 major playmakers for Kentucky's offense are gone, and now we don't exactly know who is going to be at quarterback for the Wildcats. But it's going to be a rough go-around for Mark Stoops and company. Both teams now down to at least a second or third string quarterback for 2 offenses that struggle to move the ball all year long. And I don't really expect them to start lighting it up all of a sudden with these backups in. You take a look at the defenses, guys, that's where the game might be made. We might not see any offensive touchdowns, and maybe we'll see a defensive touchdown. Iowa's only giving up 14.4 points per game. They've given up 20 points or more only 3 times this year. Those games were against Michigan, Ohio State, and Nebraska. So 2 college football playoff teams and somehow Nebraska in the season finale. Understandable. Everybody else, they held to under 20 points. It's pretty dang impressive. They're only giving up 174-ish passing yards per game, 104 rushing yards per game. They have 30 sacks. They generate good pressure. They have 21 interceptions. Pretty solid there in the secondary. They're stingy. Iowa doesn't allow a lot of points. That's the thing. If Iowa could just have put together a competent offense to go along with this defense, the sky was the limit for this team. They just haven't been able to figure it out offensively. In the 3 games that they lost to Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, the ones that they gave up over 20 points, they gave up over 278 passing yards to the Cornhuskers and committed 4 turnovers. They gave up 294 passing yards to Ohio State, committed 6 turnovers, and they allowed Michigan to be very balanced, 155 passing yards, 172 rushing yards, 0 turnovers. So you look at this game, guys, for Iowa, the turnovers have been key. You know, when people score a lot of points on the Hawkeyes, it's because they get a lot of opportunities. 10 turnovers in 3 games to Michigan, Ohio State, and Nebraska. Those teams capitalize on those, especially if they had short fields, if they had defensive touchdowns. And it's one of those things where if Iowa finds themselves down 10 points, they find themselves double digits, they're not coming back from that. And everybody kind of knew that when Nebraska jumped out to their big lead over the Hawkeyes. Once Nebraska got up, 17-0, you could have turned the game off because Iowa did not have the offensive capability to get themselves back in that game. When you look at Kentucky, guys, their defense is giving up just 19 points per game, so under 20 is pretty impressive. 173 passing yards per game, 147 rushing yards per game. They only allowed 20 points or more in 5 games. But they went 1-4 in those games. Those games where they allowed over 20 points were against Northern Illinois, which they won, and they lost to Ole Miss, lost to South Carolina without Will Levis, but lost to South Carolina, lost to Tennessee, and lost to Vanderbilt, which was a shocker this year. So 1-4 in the games where they gave up over 20 points. I don't think they have to worry about giving up over 20 points to Iowa, but the problem is in those games, with the exception of South Carolina, they had Will Levis. They had Will Levis to kind of try to generate some sort of offense. They had Chris Rodriguez to try to generate some sort of offense. They're not going to be out there now for Kentucky. The Wildcats have just 19 sacks. They have practically no pass rush, 16 turnovers, okay, but not great. But they've got to find a way to dial up pressure on Joey Levis. That's what I would do. Iowa has given up 37 sacks this year. So the Wildcats haven't been pressuring quarterbacks very well this year, but if they can get after him, force him into some bad throws, force him into second and third and long situations, Iowa's offense will not be able to pick it up. They will not be able to pick him up. So if I'm Kentucky, I'm blitzing a lot in this game because I don't respect Iowa's offense. If I'm Kentucky, I'm not respecting them, and I'm not respecting Joey Levis. I'm thinking if I can get him well behind the chains, if I can rattle him early, it's going to be better for me. And we might not be able to move the ball too well offensively, but if we have a short field or if our defense puts us in a prime position, all it may take is 1 touchdown and we might win this thing. That literally is what could happen in this Music City Bowl. And I tell you guys, I'm torn on who to pick on it, really. I am. I mean, you look at both teams. The defense has been great. Both teams at 7-5. Both have their collection of quality wins, if you want to call them that. But I really think unless you're a Hawkeye fan or a Wildcat fan, this is going to be a pretty brutal thing to watch. This is going to be hard to watch. Kind of like it was last year. Kentucky did win a thriller, 20-17, but it was low scoring. It was a defensive slugfest. I don't think we're going to see that many points this year. I don't know if we're going to see a team hit 20 points. It might be first 1 to 7. Might be first 1 to 10. Might be first one that scores a safety wins. The defense is going to win this game ultimately, guys. And ultimately, I am slightly leaning towards Kentucky. I got to give the edge to Kentucky. They have a slight quarterback edge, I believe, over Joey Levis, or whether it's Kaya Sharon that gets the start for the Wildcats or somebody else. I think they're going to get the better edge there at the quarterback position. The defense is solid. I think they can match Iowa where it comes down to it. I think Mark Stoops is a solid defensive mind. He's going to be able to generate enough pressure on Levis to get Iowa behind the chains. The Hawkeyes, we know, can't move the ball. They couldn't move them with their starters. I don't expect them to do it now. Sell out on stopping the run if you're Kentucky. Force Levis to win the game through the air, and you're going to be just fine. Ultimately, guys, all it takes is maybe one big play to turn this thing. One big interception, one big fumble recovery, one big pass, one big run. That's all it's going to take to bust this game open and maybe win it. First 1 to 10 could get the win. But if Kentucky, let me tell you, if Kentucky gets up by double digits, it's game over. Iowa can't come back. So I'm going to lean the Wildcats' way here. I have a little bit more faith in them. They typically play well in bowl games under Mark Stoops. I like their odds here to clinch an 8-win season. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Again, we have our holiday special over there, $29.99, get you every single postseason pick, not just for college football, but NFL football as well. Every postseason pick only at thegridironexpert.com. Make sure you go take a look at it. Sign up today, become a part of our GE Nation, and make money with us. You'll make that money back like that. So go take a look at it. The link down in the description. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.